and welcome to my channel, or welcome back, loyal viewers. I am Carrie, the nosy housefrau, back by unpopular demand, and I am starting out 2023 right by sharing some of my very important opinions with you. And getting a migraine. JaclynHill has had a lot to say on Twitter recently, not about herself, because if you'll recall, when you do ask her questions about herself or if there's any kind of accountability, she makes tracks. Remember, it was like, Jaclyn, why is there caca in your cosmetics? And then suddenly, okay, bye-bye. Jaclyn, what? No, we just want to know. Wait, what, you were abducted? What happened? Wait, Jaclyn, we need answers. We need answers, Jaclyn. But then Jaclyn was gone. She had to take a little sabbatical. She's very shy and introverted and has trouble going out. That's why, again, she was on a trip recently in Miami having a great time. So, we know for a fact, given history, that Jaclyn has nothing to say. I mean, clams up if anybody holds her to task for herself. In fact, she's been known to kind of lash out at people when they were initially being nice to her and just making inquiries about her makeup. She lashed out, then she took her toys and went home, and nobody heard from her. She went off of social media entirely, waited for the heat to die down, and then came back. If there's one thing that burns my toast, it's when somebody bashes somebody else over the head with their opinion, only to say, I don't like your opinion. Keep your opinion to yourself. Well, bitch, what did you just do? But let me back up, because this is best explained with a dramatic Twitter read. Keep a mental tab here, because I want to give you a little of the backstory on the subject of JaclynHill's Twitter confrontation. What had happened was, there's this influencer, Mikayla Makeup, and I hadn't really watched too much of the drama going on about that, but I knew she had made a lot of people mad, and I knew that Dustin had a video on her. So I went and watched it, and it turns out this woman had been a bad customer in a restaurant, and this waitress made a video, and Michaela admitted it and wrote this big long apology. But when the girl didn't take down, this is a really fast highlight version, by the way, when the girl didn't take down the video, Michaela retracted all of her lengthy apologies and just started calling her a liar and said it never happened. In the beginning, Michaela was saying that she just has social anxiety and that's why she was cold towards the girl, but she recognized that it was no excuse. Well, social anxiety can be different for different people, but it's strange because clearly this was something Michaela was aware of, and also this person was fawning over her, so in essence creating a safe place. That doesn't necessarily mean somebody's going to react the same way, and I do acknowledge that a person who feels fear can seem aloof, but this girl was decidedly rude, in my opinion. She was very rude to the waitress, and there is no excuse for that. And then she not only retracted her apology, she started talking badly about this person. Doesn't it remind you of that in if I did it, it's your fault type of thing? You know, that breakdown of what a narcissist is. Now, I don't know exactly what went on there, but I thought that, as usual, Dustin gave a very succinct and cogent argument for what had happened. He is a commentary channel. He's been accused of being gossiped by Jaclyn, and sometimes other people say this about drama channels as well, because they conflate gossip with commentary. Some people observe human behavior and also like to add their commentary because they are truth seekers. And they examine themselves, they examine other people, they watch human behavior, and they call out poor behavior, because often when people live their life by their own personal code, they can get very irate when they see other people don't do that. For example, somebody like Dustin, who would always be nice to a server in a restaurant, he doesn't have a lot of patience for people who would be rude to people in customer service positions, and I can appreciate that. I haven't discussed that with Dustin, but that's the impression I get, that he has a strong sense of justice and doesn't like to see people abuse power and be rude to a waitstaff. And certainly, social anxiety or not, we have an obligation to be aware of what we're putting out there and get that kind of thing under control, because you can't abuse people and then say, well, I can just blame it on this. That is no excuse. Michaela decided that when this girl didn't accept her apology, rather than say, well, I think she's a jerk for not accepting my apology, she just decided to say the girl was lying and that none of it was true, even though she had acknowledged it was. And that's the kind of thing that you will get called out on from the commentary drama community. So there's no love lost between Dustin and Michaela. Don't expect him to tweet her happy birthday. Now, it turns out this Michaela person, follow along because the road does lead back to Jaclyn. Michaela had said to others or publicly that nobody should talk about her boyfriend because she felt like he wasn't in social media, yada yada, but it was a hypocrisy because apparently she does too. And also it's kind of ridiculous when people go out of their way to be public and then complain about it. And that was another thing Michaela had done, was she made a video complaining about her job as a beauty influencer. She was like, and some people say she's exaggerating her accent. I've got to tell you, when you go somewhere and they talk in a certain accent, it does sound like they're faking it because it's so different to your ear. I'm from New York, and sometimes when I go back to New York, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this now, but it stands out to me a lot more when I'm first there, and then after I'm there for a while, it fades. So that's natural. And also sometimes if you are from a certain area, your accent will come back stronger sometimes. And sometimes it's an affectation. If you're somebody with social anxiety, you might play it up and use those affectations just to be playful. And I have no problem with that. So that's not a problem I have with Michaela, and I actually think the accent is kind of cute. But what was not cute was her talking about how I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and she has to do beauty stuff for 4 hours, and then she has to edit, and then she has meetings from 5 o'clock on, because I guess she's Beyonce, she's got meetings every day. And she actually said, you don't want to do this. This is a hard job. It's hard. You don't want it. And the fact is, that just sounds terrible. That you don't say things like that to people who, don't enjoy the luxuries that you have. There are people who get up very early in the morning to do terrible jobs. I mean, seriously, Michaela, like, you know what? I was going to be a beauty influencer, but then I was like, no, it looks too hard. I think I'll go work down at the Holiday Inn Express and scrub toilets. Shut the hell up when you're complaining about your privileged life. Well, even if you're right, you're going to be wrong. It doesn't matter if it's hard work. If it's a labor of love, you are very lucky to do it. So, that aside, that brings me to these tweets. So now you have a little Michaela background, and you'll understand that a lot of people talk about Michaela and have their opinions about Michaela. And Dustin shared his opinion. It's part of what he does as somebody who's involved in commentary on his own channel. There's nothing wrong with it. So without further ado, here was Dustin's tweet. Yeah, so Michaela is saying not to speak about Cody because he doesn't have social media. If that's the case, she shouldn't post him on her socials. She's clearly one of the biggest beauty gurus right now, and anything she posts, people are going to look at and question. This is a good point. Don't talk about this person that I talk about and put in my videos and mention on my social media. But Jaclyn didn't think so. Here's what she had to say. You're just mean, Dustin. You're making excuses to be awful to someone who doesn't deserve it. He's a recovering addict and doesn't need people posting about him for views. I watched gossip channels such as yourself hurt my ex, and you continue to repeat the cycle. Grow up. So I don't know what Jaclyn was thinking chiming in with that. She should just be glad that she could come back onto Twitter without people holding her feet to the fire. But no, she decided to get self-righteous and tell someone they're not entitled to their opinion, which ironically, she used her opinion to do. But on top of that, what's this bit about the ex and addiction and ruining his life? Putting aside that Dustin himself has had a lot of loss in his life, it is really ridiculous to play that shame game and be completely wrong. Remember, this person telling somebody else to grow up is the same person who hid and stuck her head in the sand and refused to acknowledge anything she did wrong with her products and with people. And now she's in another scandal because, again, she has been highly irresponsible. Recently, Nick Snider mentioned in a video, which I will link below, that Jaclyn never explained to anybody what happened with that supposed abduction attempt. There were so many problems with it. I really felt like the only person who remembered it because the story was not only full of holes, she just ghosted everybody on it. She was like, oh my God, you guys, I'll tell you all about it later. I'll tell you all about it. And told people nothing. She managed to worry so many people, and her fans still believe her. I don't. I think you don't tell people something that heavy and not give them any kind of an explanation. This is a complete and total disregard for your fans, for your viewers. I think anybody who does that should not get away with it. I think that you should hold people accountable. If they tell you they're going to explain something to you, they ought to. You should not put stock in people who drop a bomb on you and then walk away. That is using you. That is disrespectful. Imagine how overindulged you would have to be to think that anything that goes your way is all that's fair. It's just simply not fair and wrong if it's not to your benefit. And you can jerk people along and lie and hide and obfuscate and then come back and tell somebody else they're not entitled to their opinion. They're just mean. How high is that horse? She's going to break her neck if she falls off. Everybody has the right to chime in on what they want on Twitter, including JaclynHill. But I think it's important to make sure that you're not just grasping because you don't like somebody and you're trying to paint them in a poor light. Even if that's part of it, you have to have the truth on your side. Dustin was calling it as he sees it, and it certainly wasn't below the belt. Jesus, it was just a point. Jaclyn has often been accused of creating drama just when she has a launch, like certain people tend to do. And this was so nitpicky and out of the blue and went out of its way to mention her ex that I believe it. I believe that she's probably just stirring the pot because she has some launch, even though the brand name, from what I understand, is in trouble and Morphe just laid off a lot of people. She won't have anything to say about that, I'm sure. And if the launch goes wrong, believe me, you won't see hide nor hairy lipstick from Jaclyn.
Okay, bye-bye.